expanding quite quickly. So what this means is that rather than assume this permanent antagonism impacting us, we have to look at the specifics of how exactly they interact, what exactly they disagree about, and so on and so forth. It also means that Tamil Nadu is now a key factor in future politics. It's not impossible to think of a Sri Lankan economy that is not one more. Yeah. It's impossible to think of a Sri Lankan economy that is not going to be in some way integrated into the Indian one and possibly the Tamil Nadu one. That puts the diaspora in a three-way relationship because we are already investing heavily in Tamil Nadu. We are already embedded in Tamil Nadu's cultural and political frameworks. And the last, and this is a more broader one, is the return of self-determination in world politics. It might not appear to be the case, but if we look closely, even in a major power like the United Kingdom, the idea that a people based on territory can opt to govern themselves has been advanced, most obviously through the referendum, but more explicitly just by taking it for granted that if people in Scotland want to rule themselves and they want to be separate as a state, well, that's up to them. Okay. Even when you look at the interventions in Ukraine, one of the key assumptions of the Russian intervention, they are very explicit about this, is that the people of Crimea have the right to self-determination. So it's not entirely clear that self-determination is a Western concept. It's not entirely clear that other countries are opposed to it. And finally, even China, there's a misperception when we look at China as this very large, single, tight structure. In fact, it's heavily decentralized. The different provinces of China have a huge range of autonomy in policymaking that often undermines Chinese policy as a whole. So it's worth thinking that simply to make the argument that people can govern themselves and have the right to decide their economic, social, cultural, and political futures is not simply being ignored the way it used to be 10, 20, 30 years ago. So with those three changes in mind, and the kind of wider continuities I point to, I suggest this is what we should be thinking about, and not some broad futuristic vision of whether it's a bipolar world or a multipolar world, but rather concretely, what is it that we can do today that we could not do yesterday? I'll leave it there. Thank you.
I did not introduce the title properly when I invited you. So the theme has been about discerning change and continuity. Change in the middle of continuity, not to be occupied by the change and ignore the continuity. மாற்றங்கள் நடந்து கொண்டிருக்கின்றன மாறாத நிலை பின்னணியில் இருக்கு இரண்டையும் கவனத்தில் ஆணித்தரமாக. We will move to our next speaker. I'll invite you, Jan Rosh Yilmaz Keres from Brunel University, which is where you got your PhD. Yes. From, and you are from Middlesex University. You've been a research fellow at Middlesex at the Department of Leadership, Work and Organization. Working on ethno-national conflicts, migration, diaspora, transnationalized political movements, and statelessness. You recently authored a book titled Media, Diaspora and Conflict, Nationalism and Identity Among Turkish and Kurdish Migrants in Europe.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me to talk at this important conference. I will talk today about the role of diaspora in international relations. With the displacement of millions of people from their homeland and refugee influx, diasporas became important, powerful political actors in the global stage. They can influence world affairs in different ways. They can influence in passive or active, constructive or destructive ways. And also they can participate in the peace process. Because they are away from the pain, from the conflict, they can be sometimes moderator in these conflicts. Before going into details, I just want to explain the concept of diaspora. Don't worry, I will not go into details. There are where the term is controversial. There are a lot of discussions. But if we use the term diaspora, we refer to the people who are geographically displaced from their homeland, and they reside in another country, but they have a strong ethnic affiliation, political aspirations towards to their homeland. And their all activities are organized around imagined homeland. But diasporas are not homogeneous, as you will see from the Tamil diaspora or other diasporas. There are different ideologies within diaspora. If we say about diaspora, it's not fixed identities, but diasporas are a political concept. I see diaspora as a political concept organized around a certain political or ideological movement. And therefore it is changeable. Today, if there is conflict at home, diasporas will involve in the politics. But if there is peace in the homeland, diasporas will reduce their attention to homeland. Maybe they will more thinking of their life in the settlement countries. It's all depend on the conflict at homeland. And diasporas was not a subject of international relations, because international relations has seen ethno-nationalism as something related to has territorial nature. Nothing is transnational, nothing is international. But after the Cold War, this view has been changed. But this view has also a distorted view of diasporas in international relations. For example, Benedict Anderson, who wrote one of the important books on creation of nation, imagined community, he considered diasporas as a long distance nationalists who are not able to integrate in the societies they live, and therefore they live in daydream and thinking of only on their homeland without accountability. This is really a reductionist view of diasporas. And other scholars have also described diasporas' political activism as a hate from a distance, a suburban dream politics, distance warriors. There are different types of description, negative description of diaspora's political activism in international relations. Moreover, that is the concept of Schaffers has been widely used according to her idea, according to her theories. She distinguished diasporas into two: stateless diasporas, who likely foment conflict, and state-linked diasporas who are more benign. There is a shortcoming of these ideas. In my research on the Kurdish-Turkish diaspora, I noticed in it both communities, both diaspora groups are heavily involved in conflict in homeland. It's not about stateless diasporas involved, but also diasporas linked to the state. They are also involved because for example, in the case of Turkish diaspora, Turkish government is trying to organize Turkish diaspora and using them against the Kurdish political movement in Europe, or using them to do lobby for the Turkish government. Therefore, I see Schaeffer's concept has shortcomings. Okay, I have not a lot of time. I'm just moving very quickly. I think there is, as I mentioned, these theories on diaspora in international relations are reductionist, and they fail to capture the multi-connectedness and multi-referential relation of diasporas. in particular, stateless diasporas can play an important role to talk on behalf of the people who are in homeland under the occupation or under the oppression of hegemonic ethnic groups. Like Tamil diaspora can speak on behalf of Tamil people in Sri Lanka who have been subjected to the discrimination, racism, and as we know in 2009, they have experienced genocide in the country. And therefore, diasporas also can represent people in the homeland who can't talk on behalf of, who has no democratic channels to talk to international society. And diasporas can empower the organization in homeland, but also in organization in the diaspora, bringing them and creating a voice, creating a political, just a position to the hegemonic ideology in the homeland. And they can build ethnic lobbies, lobbying the governments, for example, UK government or German governments, that they can involve in conflict, they can interfere in the conflict, and talking to Tamil, to Sri Lankan government or Turkish government, that they have to stop to abuse their power. And diasporas can campaign for democratization of the authoritarian homelands, like Iranian diaspora, were very active for campaigning democratizations of the country. Didn't work, but still they are very influential. One issue is if we talk about diaspora, until the 90s, diasporas have not much connection with the homeland. But with the satellite televisions and internet, diasporas have started to have a strong connection with their homeland. Diaspora can sit at homeland in Ealing or in Hackney, and they can watch what's going on in homeland, and they can be part of the movement. For example, as we witnessed when the Sri Lankan government attacked the LTTE, and I saw many Tamil diaspora in the front of the British Parliament protesting the Sri Lankan government. That they got quickly news from the media and went out to protest against this. And one of the fundamental work of the diasporas is if a country denied the identity of people in the homeland, let's say Turkish government denied the existence of the Kurdish people and do not allow them to learn their language, diasporas can revive their culture in diaspora. Thousands of books has been published in Kurdish in Sweden. Indeed, modern Kurdish language was not developed in Kurdistan, it's developed in Sweden through the Kurdish intellectuals who wrote novels, who has published different type of books. And diasporas also can invest in film, in culture, in order to sustain culture in homeland, but also here. And diasporas can advocate for human rights, for welfare, citizenship, and demand for reform or self-determination, what you mentioned. And they can, in some cases, they provide public service to people. For example, if Sri Lankan government do not provide any health or education or welfare to the Tamil people, diasporas can provide healthcare or educations and other opportunities for diaspora communities. And finally, I'm not going into these details. I will give one example because diaspora has been very described negatively in the media, but also in academic life. As you can see, this is an American Palestinian multi-billionaire. He built a huge city in Rawadi, and indeed, none of the business people will go to Palestine and build such a big houses. Only that people who have patience, who are part of the political movement, they would like involved in the homeland. And otherwise people who are entrepreneurs who would like generate profit, they will never go build such houses. But only diasporic entrepreneurs can build such a big houses, big cities, because they are part of the political movement. Okay, I'm giving some example of the diaspora's involvement in political life.
You have 2 minutes.
2 minutes. I'm almost. I'm going to conclusion. We know those who have power who can write history, and those who has no power they can't write history easily. But the history is written is not the history of the oppressed people, it's mostly the history of the dominant groups. And whether we accept or not, we live in a world of nation states. Nation state is the only legal institutions, legal entities. If you do not have a nation state, you are invisible. People don't talk about you. And if they will talk about you, they maybe talk only about human rights issues, but not about your right self-determination. And in this case, diasporas have worked very hard to take their cause to international communities. One of these is the Kurdish diaspora have heavily worked, successfully worked, and even they established an exile parliament and forced the Turkish government to move to do some reforms, but in some cases they supported the Turkish government. For example, when the Turkish government applied for European membership, they support Turkish government because they thought if Turkish state will be part of the European Union, then they will have their right, they will get their rights, ethnic or national or other rights. Against, you know better than me, the Tamils have also lobbied their settlement countries. The one example is there was the meetings of the Commonwealth in Sri Lanka in 2013. Tamils diaspora has lobbied in the UK but also in Canada. At the end of the day, Canadian government boycotted not to go to Sri Lanka, and David Cameron went to Sri Lanka. He said, I'm going, but I will talk about human rights also. I don't know whether he talked about human rights when he went to the meetings or not. And we know the Sikh diaspora, which has revived their culture in diaspora, and also Armenian, who has lobbied to international community to recognize the Armenian genocide committed by the Ottoman Empire. But other diaspora have not been successful, like Kashmir diaspora. The reason is, if you, as you mentioned, if you're in the center, if you're in the center of the global politics, your voice can be heard. But if you're on the periphery, nobody will hear you. There is a very small Kashmir diaspora in the UK, and most of the Kashmir diaspora live in Pakistan. Therefore, they couldn't bring their cause to the international communities. But also, if you're far away from Europe, people will not hear you. For example, the genocide or the massacre happened in Sri Lanka in 2009. It was far away from Europe. People didn't hear because it's not something near to us. But if something's happened, for example, in Turkey against Kurds, you will see the reaction of many European governments calling the Turkish government to respect the right of the Kurds, because Kurdistan is not far from Europe. And they see if there is a problem in Kurdistan, in Turkey, there will be a huge refugee influx to Europe. Therefore, it is important whether you are near the powers or not. Okay, I'm coming to the conclusion. Okay, yeah, just mentioned as diaspora speak on the behalf of the nations, and they will be important actors in in international relations. And I think the government also should not criminalize, in particular state diasporas. They have been criminalized, but should include, work with them in order to reduce the conflict in the homeland. That's it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we will now go into the somewhat reduced panel discussion time. We've had two researchers, active researchers, young researchers, fortunately only two men researchers. Touched on the grand picture at the international global level from Sudan, but also indicating the rise of diaspora as a major change in recent times. Nowadays, Tamils, and then somewhat comparatively, according to if you are on the periphery, are we in the center or are we on the periphery? Time for some questions. So can I see some show of hands so I can estimate how many questions you're going to have? 1, 2, 3. Let's start with you.
I'd just like to ask both of them. Firstly, he said the changes which have happened is bringing forward the diaspora activities have to be increased to the extent that it can make an influence. So I just want to ask him why it is not being brought into the Tamil community, because that is still, the Tamil community is still under the 2009 defeat, and they are on the defeatist mentality, saying that nothing is going to happen, we can't make any changes. Even why we are, as part of the government also, we make a lot of changes, but on the other hand, still the community is little bit down. As a positive note from him, why can't we get this out as a researcher, and the thing is not getting to the people, and how we are going to get this message across?
I'll take the next one as well. Please introduce yourself.
Question on the diaspora.
Your name.
My name is Raj Rudran. The question is the Sri Lankan government recognizes the importance of the diaspora? They are engaging in talks and so on. How do we increase the power of influence of diaspora? What are your thoughts?
Okay. So to start with, I disagree that the diaspora is in a defeatist mode. I don't know. That's clearly not the case. And if you were in Colombo, you would not see the diaspora as somehow moribund. In fact, the diaspora, Sri Lanka considers the diaspora to be its foremost foreign policy threat. And that's evidenced most of all by prescriptions and occasional violence. So I would actually see it slightly differently. I would see the diaspora actually having mobilized most effectively since 2008 onwards, where going from what I would call street protest and lobbying to actually policy making, right? I mean, the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, it's less a question of the diaspora lobbying than a partnership, or at least a partnership or dialogue where before they go, the British government thinks we need to talk to them to figure out our policies. So this is a very different shift, but this is why I say it's important. When I say the rise of the diaspora, I don't mean that there are a lot more babies. I mean, what I mean is that the actual integration of diaspora into global policymaking has been advancing. That's not a smooth